Happy World Book Day and a very warm World Book Day welcome to you all. We hope you're having a great World Book Day so far. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We've got a great session with the brilliant Benjamin Dean, who is the author of the World £1 book, This Story is a Lie. And Benjamin's going to lead a great session for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to him.
Hi everyone. I'm going to do the terrifying thing of sharing my screen, so hopefully you'll be able to see my presentation. I do think you'll be able to see my very messy desktop, so let's ignore that and let's see if I remember how to do this. So if I share my screen, hopefully you can see my desktop. I'm taking it away very quickly. Now you can't see it. And now I'll do this, and hopefully you'll be able to see this presentation and not my very, very messy desktop. Hi everyone. My name is Benjamin Dean, and first of all, and most importantly, a huge happy World Book Day to everybody who is watching. Um, World Book Day for me when I was growing up was a really, really special day. I really, really loved dressing up as my favorite characters from books, and of course, using my book token to purchase a book for free. I think I've been muted and unmuted. I am now unmuted, I think. If you can't hear me, then I don't know, shout really loud and maybe I'll hear. Yeah, so as I was saying, I used to really, really enjoy and love World Book Day, especially because I'd be able to use my £1 book token to kind of go out and purchase a free book of my own, one that I would get to keep and treasure in my collection. And now I'm very, very lucky that I get to be a World Book Day author with my story, which is a thriller set in a school called This Story is a Lie. Now, I will talk a little bit about this story in a little bit, but first of all, I'm going to introduce you to me, but not me as I am now. I'm going to introduce you to me as I was when I was a little bit younger. So hopefully you'll be able to see the pictures here. I'm not sure if I'm covering some of the pictures over here, but let's see if I can move that out of the way. There we go. I can move that. That's fine. So this is me when I was younger than I am now, very clearly. I'm a little bit older than these pictures. So let's start with the very first picture over here. This is me. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be showing my age a little bit here. Fingers crossed that if I am, then the teachers in the room will be able to help me out a little bit. But I'm wondering if anybody in the classes that are watching remember this car. I used to love this car. I think it was like the Fisher Price car. I really, really, really loved that car. It made me want to be like a driver. Fun fact, I actually can't drive now. I just kind of walk everywhere or take public transport. So yeah, I can't drive. But back then, I used to really, really, really want to be a driver. And that was my favorite toy that I would kind of pedal around the living room in, sometimes out in the garden in. But yeah, I'll be interested to know if any of the kids actually recognize or know what this car is, but I'm sure the teachers definitely will. And then the woman in that picture, who I'm circling with my mouse right now, is my mum. Now, my mum is someone who I'm very, very, very close with, someone who I have a really special relationship with, and someone who I love very dearly. So I get the great pleasure of dedicating all of my books to my mum. So at the very beginning of a book, when you open it, you'll usually find a dedication, and it will usually say for or to insert person. So mine always says for my mum. But I did realize recently that when I opened This Story is a Lie, I actually forgot to dedicate that one to my mum. So fingers crossed that she actually doesn't look inside that one. She reads all my other books, so I think I'm going to get caught. But fingers crossed that she doesn't. She kind of skates past that part. But yeah, all of my books are dedicated to my mum, which kind of gets me brownie points because my sister is not an author, so she can't do that. So I get fun brownie points for doing that because it's quite a fun thing. The very middle picture is me looking very, very, very happy with my cousin Mia. But fun fact, I actually wasn't very happy that day. I put a smile on for the camera, but I was actually very, very, very miserable. Mostly because I think you'll be able to see if you look very closely that my cousin has these very, very, very lovely butterfly clips in her hair, and I really wanted some butterfly clips to put in my hair. But if you can't tell, I don't have much hair going on under here. My cap covers not much at all. So nothing really for the butterfly clips to cling to. So I don't know why I was really mad that day, but I remember being very, very, very sad that I couldn't have the butterfly clips. But I put on a smile just to make it all okay. So if I move this one across, I'm not sure if I need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Um, Hopefully you'll be able to see the very final picture at the far end, which is me in my school uniform. I'm looking a little bit shifty. I'm looking a little bit suspicious, like I've done something wrong. But this is a really, really important picture because this is around about the time that I realized that I first wanted to be an author. I was around about I think I was going into year three. I think was is this picture. I'm about to go into year three, and this is about the time when I wrote my very first story. So my very first story was not very original. It was a retelling of The Three Little Pigs. And it was, I really loved The Three Little Pigs as a story when I was younger, so I decided to try and write my own version of it. I probably wasn't very original. It was probably quite a copy and paste with maybe an extra character or an extra plot twist in there. But I remember that my teacher at the very end of the lesson asked me to stand up and read out this story to the class, and I felt so proud. And it was the first time that I realized that maybe I could be an author too. I could write stories. It was something that I really, really wanted to do. Now, I have always wanted to be an author since then, but before then, I obviously wanted to be the driver. I also wanted to be an Olympic gymnast. Not entirely sure why. I can't do cartwheels or handstands or backflips or front flips. I think I maybe did like a roly poly when I was two and decided, oh, I want to do that as a job. But no, I became an author instead. It's much safer. There's no worry of broken bones. So yeah, that was me when I first realized that I wanted to become an author. Now, this is me now. So I'm going to move this thing around so you'll be able to see a little bit of the pictures before I start. So this is me now. Yes, I have had some interesting looks in my life. You might just be able to see a peak of pink hair in the corner. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is me now. I thought I'd introduce you to me as an adult. As I said, my name is Benjamin Dean, but you can just call me Ben. I often hear Benjamin and think that I'm in really big trouble. My mum would call me Benjamin when I was in trouble when I was younger. But Ben feels like is what everybody calls me. So you're more than welcome to call me Ben. If you go into a bookshop, they won't know who you're talking about. So you have to say Benjamin Dean when you go into a bookshop. But otherwise, you are more than welcome to call me Ben. These are some pictures that kind of show me in my various different habitats and some of the places that you're most likely to find me. The very first one is a picture that's taken in a library. I absolutely adore and love libraries. Hopefully, you guys have libraries either in your schools or close to your homes or in the community. Libraries are so, so, so important. And that's where I really learned my love of reading was being able to go to a library, take books out, take books home, and read and read and read, and then take them back and swap. And now I still love to use libraries. Now, when I go, I sometimes have to do videos. So this was a still from a video that I did a while ago that was promoting World Book Day. Fun fact that when you do those kind of videos, it's usually a relatively big setup. You know, you've got cameras and you've got people on the other side, you've got lights, you've got people with headphones on that make you feel really important. It can be a bit strange sometimes, this job, but it's all very, very fun. So that's me in one of my favorite habitats. The second place, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see properly there, but if you haven't guessed, I am a really, really big fan of tennis. I love to play tennis. I play tennis, I watch tennis, and this is a picture that was actually to celebrate the publication of, if I can find it, I have a copy right here was to celebrate the American publication of one of my books called The King is Dead. We'll get onto this in a moment. But when my book was published in the US, as a kind of treat and as a reward, I went out to New York to watch the US Open, which is a tennis tournament in America. And I absolutely love tennis. It's one of my favorite passions. I play tennis, I play badminton, I play a little bit of squash. So you could say that I'm quite a racket sports person. I can see my rackets behind me over there. You probably can't see them, they're just down there. But yeah, this is something that I really love to do, something that inspires me in a lot of ways. Sometimes, if I've got writer's block, just kind of leaving my laptop and going to go and play some tennis gets my head a little bit free and helps me out. So we'll move on to the picture that I'm sure you're all waiting for me to talk about. If I move this over here, you should be able to see. My lovely pink hair there. Yeah, I've had some very interesting looks in my time. I've had pink hair, I've had purple hair, I've had blue hair, I've had blonde hair, I've had silver hair. I once had a glitter beard. It wasn't, that was a one day thing. I went to a Pride event, which Pride is one of my favorite celebrations of the year. Being able to go to Pride and celebrate the LGBTQ plus community is really, really close to my heart. So I went all out for that event, and I went with a glitter beard. So basically, what happened was my friends kind of hairsprayed my beard, and we threw loads of glitter in there. So I was finding glitter all over the place for about 4 weeks afterwards. But something about me is that I love to kind of have a little bit of color on me somewhere, which is a bit bizarre because I dress all in black. But if I can have just a flash of color somewhere, whether it be my hair or my beard, I usually like that stuff. So yeah, that is me as an adult. Let's click through here. And these are some of my books. I'll move that over there. These are some of my books. As I said, I'm an author. I've been an author now for, ooh, I started writing professionally in 2020, so 5 years now. I think we're approaching my 5 year anniversary. I think it's in May, so I have to celebrate that somehow. But yeah, in that time, since 2020, I've written 6 books, including the World Book Day book, which we'll talk about in a moment. And my very first one over here is a book that will always hold a very special place in my heart, particularly because it is my first book. It was my debut. It was what started my whole career. It's called Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow. I don't know if anyone will have read it in here. It might be a little bit young for the people watching, or it might be the right age for the people watching. But it is one of my favorite books that I've ever written. I really, really enjoyed writing it. It's kind of an adventure story set at a Pride festival. As I said earlier, Pride is something that I hold really dear to my heart. So it was really, really lovely for me to be able to write that book, particularly because I think when I was younger, when I was in school, I often couldn't find myself in the books that I was reading. So I would find these great stories about people who were saving the world and heroes and even people who were just kind of like regular friends who were just having a good time in a book. They never looked like me or identified like me in any way. And it made me feel a little bit isolated from the world around me. So being able to write books now with characters who look like me and who I can get on the front cover of my books really, really makes me happy. And hopefully you can see yourselves in some of the characters of my books. But Me, My Dad, and the End of the Rainbow, you can see Archie there on the cover. It was a really proud moment for me to be able to have him on the cover. Yeah, I feel like giving back to my younger self. The next book there is The Boy Who Fell from the Sky. Now, I might be wrong, but I think this was book number 4. Um, the Boy Who Fell from the Sky was my first time writing a fantasy story. So it's kind of an adventure fantasy story, maybe a little bit sci-fi. And it's about a demon that falls from the sky. Now, demons in this world fall from the sky and they're hunted by hunters who kind of capture them to save humans. But main character Zed, who you can see on the front cover there in his black hoodie, which is very like me. You can always find me in a hoodie somewhere. I like to be comfortable. But when Zed kind of stumbles across a demon called Spark, he realizes that Spark is just a demon who really wants to get back home. And so it's a really, really fun adventure story that I really, really enjoyed writing. Like I said, it's my first time trying a fantasy story, and I really, really loved it. Next across, we've got my 2 young adult books. I'll move that over there, move myself. My 2 young adult books. Now, these are very, very different from my younger books. My younger books are middle grade, and these are young adult. And I really, really enjoy writing them. As you can see, they're a little bit darker. They're a little bit more grown up than my other books. They include a lot of murder mysteries, which is why we've got some splatters of blood there. House Die Famous is, I maybe shouldn't have favorites. I probably shouldn't. It feels like choosing a favorite child, but I think House Die Famous is my favorite of the 2. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing it. It's kind of like a behind the scenes of celebrity culture, a behind the scenes of what it's like to be famous, especially when you're a young adult, and what that might look like. And there is a really, really juicy, scandalous plot twist and mystery kind of at the heart of that book. And it's set in Hollywood, which I really loved. Before I was an author, I was a celebrity reporter. So it was really, really fun to kind of write this as a behind the scenes version of what really goes on behind the scenes with your favorite celebrities when the cameras turn off. And then the final book there is The King is Dead. I showed you a different version of that book just a moment ago, but this is the UK cover. All of these are my UK covers. So The King is Dead was my very first young adult book, and it's a book that I absolutely love. I know I should say that about all my books, but I really, really, really loved writing The King is Dead. It was something very, very different for me. It was very it was much older and it had a real mystery at the heart. It's very kind of like Gossip Girl meets The Crown if it was set in Buckingham Palace type kind of vibes, which I really, really love. It's something that I would have loved to read when I was younger. And it kind of follows the main character, James, who has just been crowned as the King of England, the King of the United Kingdom, at 17 years old. So he's really young, and his secret boyfriend goes missing right at the beginning of the story. And then secrets that James and his family are trying to hold inside the palace gates start to get leaked out to the press and to the public. And it becomes a very kind of fast paced mystery to try and stop those secrets from getting out to the public. So I really, really enjoyed writing them. And like I said, all of my books have characters in them that make me feel seen and that I wish I could have had when I was younger. So hopefully, if you're looking for that, you can find yourselves in these books. Yeah, they're a really, really good time. So let's go here. So this is the life of an author. So I've kind of popped myself over the pictures there. I'm not sure if you can see this thing that I can see, but I'm just going to assume that you can. Maybe if I hide the thumbnail of it. Do you know what? I'm not going to do that. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Let's not do that. Let's carry on. Life as an author. So, as I said, I've always wanted to be an author, and I've now been one for a few years now. I am what's known as a pantser. Now, they say there are two kinds of authors, two types of authors, and they are a pantser and a planner. Now, I know at least one of those words will look a little bit weird, so we'll tackle the obvious one first, and then we'll work backwards. So, planner as it kind of says on the tin, is someone who is an author who kind of goes into the work knowing exactly what they're going to do. They know all of their characters, they know everything about them, they know everything about the story, about the plot, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, how it's going to end, how it's going to begin, what the middle is going to look like. They're probably very organized people. They maybe have spreadsheets and post-it notes, very, very organized, and they know everything. And then you have me. I'm what's known as a pantser. I believe it comes from the saying flying by the seat of your pants. And basically, it means that when I approach writing a book, I tend to approach it with delusion, vibes, vague prayers that I can do it. Now, I know that doesn't sound very professional, but it's worked. It's worked six times before now, soon to be seven. We have a new book coming soon. Um, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see from here, but I've got a bunch of my books like up here at the top corner of my bookshelf. It works. It's worked before. So basically, I imagine I have snippets of the story. So maybe I have a character, or I have one scene, or I have a big plot twist in mind, and things start to branch out from there. So I don't tend to know how to get between A to B, but an A to C, etc., etc. But I tend to kind of figure that out as I go along and feel out the story, and then it may require a lot more editing later on, but it's something that it helps me experiment and explore the story. I write in short bursts, usually at my desk. So I think a common misconception about authors is that we kind of tie ourselves to our desk and we have to stay there for kind of like 8 hours and we just write and write and write. And some authors do that. Some authors do stay at their desk all day and get a big chunk of writing done or a big chunk of editing done. But I kind of have a bit of a short attention span. I get very restless, and so I prefer to kind of break it up into shorter bursts. So what I'll tend to do is I'll write for maybe an hour or an hour and a half, or maybe less. Maybe I'll write for half an hour, 45 minutes. And it will be really like intense focus to make sure that I get things done. And then I'll get up and I'll go about my day. I'll maybe go for coffee or I'll do one of my crosswords. I love to do a crossword in the morning. I maybe go see some friends or go for a walk or play video games or watch YouTube or TikTok or TV or anything just to get me away from my laptop, maybe go outside and get some good air, maybe play some tennis. And then later on in the day, especially if I'm on a deadline, I'll come back in and I'll do another short burst, maybe another short burst after that, just to kind of break up the day a little bit, and make it not so long and hard. So I usually write at my desk. We're at my desk right now. I would turn you around, but my desk is quite messy at the moment, and not very organized. So we won't be doing that. I won't have that live on the internet. But I usually write here at my desk in my room. It's very, very comfy and cozy in here. I've got lamps, I've got candles, I've got my books all around me, I've got post-it notes all around me, and it's very, very comfortable here. Sometimes I might try and write somewhere else, and we'll come on to that in a little while. But sometimes I might try and write in a cafe or maybe outside somewhere, especially when it's nice weather. And it's something that really kind of makes the writing process a little bit more exciting sometimes. It usually takes me a couple of months to write a first draft. I'm a relatively quick writer, I think. I can maybe do it a little bit quicker now. Like a first draft, to just to explain, is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the first version of a story. So it's not good. Most authors do not produce very, very good first drafts. A first draft is basically just like a starting point. So I write the story as I think of it. Sometimes I might think it's not very good. Well, most of the time I think it's not very good at the first draft. You get very confused and you're like, what am I doing? I can't do this anymore. There's so much to do. But eventually you get to the end and it might not be polished, it might be pretty rough, but you've got something to work from. So I would say that usually that aspect can take me anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 months, depending on how much time I've got. Because writing is my full-time job, I do tend to have to be working quite quick. So I would say it probably takes me about 2 months, is probably a good amount of time for me to write a first draft. And the best part about being an author is signing books. I absolutely adore signing books. It makes me very, very happy when I get to do that, when I get to go into a bookshop and write those books, sign those books. It makes me very happy. Although I do feel like I'm defacing books with graffiti when I do it. I feel very rude. But you can see some of the pictures here with my books. I've got like the books that something you might not know about an author is that when a book gets published, your publisher sends you a huge box, and it usually has about 20 or 25 copies of your own book in there, as if you haven't already read it a million times before. It's quite nice. It's very nice to receive so many copies of your book and kind of see them all in one place. And as you can see right here in my bookshelf, it's really fun to kind of set them up and kind of be able to see and be proud of what I've done. So I'm very, very, very happy to be able to do that. So the journey of writing a book, it all starts with a small idea. It's a small seed, as I said, which quickly grows and grows and grows. I use kind of that joining the dots method that I spoke about, and I definitely do a dialogue first, blanks second kind of method. So there is no one writing hack to write a book, it's whatever works for you. For me, I tend to find that writing a conversation is with no prose, no writing around it, works quite well for me. It means that I understand what the story's doing, what the chapter's doing, and then I can go back and fill in those blanks later. I think of it a bit like furnishing a house. It's kind of a bit like that. Research is your best friend when you're writing. Often I'm writing about things that I don't understand, and so to be able to use Google and kind of Google things about places that I've never been, places that I've never been to. It makes me well versed in what I'm writing about. So, for example, when I was writing about Buckingham Palace, I have never been to the palace. I've never been to Buckingham Palace a day in my life. So, I needed floor plans and I needed pictures of the inside. So, a lot of research had to go into that. So, if you're writing about a place that you've never been before or about something that you don't know, then Google is a very good first stop to try and get some research in your head about what that place is like. And writer's block, I get asked about this all the time, how I deal with writer's block. My way of dealing with writer's block is to close my laptop and go. Sometimes I think trying to work through it makes it worse. So I will go play tennis, I will go for a coffee, just something to get me outside and kind of inspired by the day around me. And hopefully that helps to my loosen up my brain. You can see some of the pictures here, some of the places that I work. So the top left-hand corner is me working at the beach, I think. As I said, I don't often go elsewhere, but that is one place that I have been to go and work by the beach. Quite nice, especially on a nice day like today. It's very lovely outside where I am. You can see the top right-hand corner. I've got a fake fireplace going. That's one of the Netflix fireplaces, I believe, on my TV that just kind of made everything feel very peaceful in my bedroom when I was writing. It was very late, so I knew that I wanted something to make me feel cozy. Bottom left-hand corner picture down here. Sometimes you have to write or work from wherever you can. So on a long car journey to a festival for an event, sometimes you just have to write in the back of the car. Thankfully, that car was very roomy, so I got to kind of stretch my legs. And the next picture here, hopefully you're not looking too hard because my desk is quite messy. But this is kind of some of the post-it notes that I kind of work with to try and plan out the story and see it more in detail. So those are some character names that you might see pop up in the future. Who knows? So next, it's time to edit and edit and edit some more. The next stage of writing a book, of kind of getting to the point of publication, is to edit. So this is the point where people will start to read the book for the first time that aren't me. So usually it's my agent and my editor. They're the first people who get my book and get to read it first. And then they give me notes about what they think about the book and what they think could be better, what they think could be improved, what they think I could flesh out, what I can delete. It's usually quite heartbreaking. I've grown a thick skin over the years, but usually you realize that, oh, there's a lot of work to be done to make this into a proper book. Now, I often think of writing a book as a bit of a Jenga game. It feels like you're kind of knocking out a bit of the blocks and the tower's starting to shake and wobble a little bit. That's what editing feels like. You can delete something and it kind of makes the whole story fall down and you've got to build it back up again. It's a lot of work, but eventually things start to take shape. The book starts to look more like a book, and there are multiple rounds of edits for it to get better and better and better. So you might be working on it for 3 or 4 different edits to try and get it to that final version. So some of these pictures here kind of help to describe the editing process. I think this top left-hand corner, you can't quite see it, but the manuscript that I work from, which is just a Word document, on the right-hand side, right in, where's my mouse? Right here, you should just about be able to see that. Those are comments from my editor that are kind of asking me about the story and giving me some perspective on it. I think it's quite late at night because I've got a lamp on, so I only ever do that if it's late. The next picture here. Now, this is actually this is very good for this because actually this is the very moment that I finished writing. This story's a lie. It was, as you can see by the time, it was very late. It was 10 to 1 in the morning. I just finished my edits for the book, and it was finished. That was it. I sent it off and it became the final book that you see here. That was the moment. I think I was in Edinburgh. I was in a hotel room, so it's not my usual working space, but I managed to get it finished. You can see this picture down here. I think I'm actually on the train to Edinburgh that day. There's a lot of Edinburgh going on. Working from one of the tables on the train, sometimes you've just got to get the edit done as quickly as possible. And then the final picture here, if you look really closely, the final points of edit, you get the book and it looks like a book for once. It no longer looks like a Microsoft Word page. It starts to look like an actual book. So I get the files and I've got to go through them all and kind of decide how to I decide if I had to kind of lock that story in and to send it off to print, which is where we are here. Finally, the book becomes a real thing. So after so much time looking at my laptop, looking at a Microsoft Word document, the book goes to print and it finally becomes like a real thing, which is such a surreal and bizarre feeling. Now, if you look at the top left-hand picture over here, that is actually me. That was the day that I went to the printers. Now, the printers obviously is where they print the books. They print hundreds of thousands of copies of books a day, I think, and they ship just as many. But this is what the books start out looking like. They are just flat sheets of paper that have yet to be glued together, glued to cardboard or whatever. They are just stacks and stacks and stacks of covers and manuscripts. You walk around and you can see books that have not been released yet. It's just really, really, really fun. Um, Something else that's really fun when it becomes a real life thing is being able to go and meet readers. So you'll be able to see here that I'm kind of with a bunch of young readers at a school who all have pictures of my book. It was all really, really fun. And then the top right hand picture is a highlight of my career. Is when we finally got, I say finally, we hadn't tried before, but it was when I got a billboard for The King is Dead in Leicester Square in London. It was a very, very big deal. So I went down at 9 a.m. in the morning and I'm underneath it like, look at me, look at the book. And all these these people who were walking by did not care in the slightest. They were just going to work, trying to mind their business. But this is, after months and months and months of hard work, edits can take a really long time. This is without doubt the best part. You get to go out and see your book in the world, see readers reacting to it, and hopefully loving the book. It's just a very, very surreal moment. And then you start all over again. The cycle starts again. You go back to the beginning, and yeah, you kind of start with a small idea, and it's back to the drawing board. You'll be able to see here that each book has its own different journey. So, for example, the book that you can see in the bottom left-hand picture is the American edition of The King is Dead. If you're lucky, you can get your book published in the country that you live, and if you're really, really lucky, your book will kind of grow wings and fly to countries that you've never even been to. So I've got books that are translated into Portuguese, Italian, Welsh. It's really, really, really surreal to see your words and not understand them when they get delivered to you. I don't have one close by, but I have, you open up a Spanish edition and you're like, I can't read Spanish. It's very, very surreal, but it's really, really fun. And down here, the bottom right hand corner, sometimes you have to go and sign a lot of books at once. I think that day was 500 copies. I think my record is 2,000 copies in a day. It hurts your wrist. You kind of got to do a lot of wrist stretches to write your name that many times, but it's all part of the fun and it's all really, really good time. So, very quickly before we move on to how to write a thriller of your own, we'll introduce This Story's a Lie. Now, This Story's a Lie is my World Book Day £1 book. You can buy it for £1 or €1.50. And if you have a book token, you can exchange that, redeem that in store to get the book for free. I think you have until the end of March. I think it's like the 23rd of March to do that. But it's a thriller set in a school which has been chosen by the Rising Stars Academy to find its next winner. Now, the Rising Stars Academy is a program who basically are looking for like the next big thing, whether that's an actor, a singer, an artist, maybe even the next prime minister. Now, every single student wants to win this. Every student wants to, but Harley Matthews, our main character, does not think that it will be him. He thinks that he doesn't have what it takes. He's like, I'm an artist, I love drawing, but it will be the perfect four. Now, the perfect four are a group of the most popular kids in school, and everybody assumes that they're going to win this competition. But when the shortlist are announced, one of the perfect four is not chosen, and Harley Matthews is. And soon, an anonymous blogger starts releasing secrets about everybody one by one. And when Harley finds a chalk outline of his body at the end of a flight of stairs, he starts to worry that someone might want him out of the competition permanently. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of scandal, a lot of secrets, a lot of lies. As you can tell, it's called This Story's a Lie. And my advice for reading it is to not trust anybody. I didn't trust anybody, and I was the writer. But it's a lot of fun, and hopefully, if you pick it up, you will really enjoy it. Now, I know that we don't have very long left. I've kind of prattled on a little bit, so we'll get on to the meat of this presentation, which is creating thrillers of your own. Now, hopefully, if you're watching, maybe you've got a slip of paper or a notepad or something that you can write on nearby. If you don't, it's fine, but you might want to jot some of your ideas down. So, for creating thrillers of your own, I've now written three, including my World Book Day one. And the first thing you need to think about is your setting. You always need a compelling setting when it comes to writing a thriller, whether that be a haunted house, whether it be your own school, but after dark when everyone's gone home. Maybe you want to set it somewhere completely mystical and fantastical. Maybe you want to set it in outer space. You might want to set it in a world that's all your own. Or maybe I've included Wimbledon down at the bottom. As we know, I'm a big fan of tennis. So you might want to set it somewhere that you really love. Maybe you really love football or you love music concerts. Maybe you want to set a thriller in one of those places. So I want you to think just very quickly about where you would like to set a story of your own, a thriller. What would make a really good backdrop for a mystery or a thriller to unfold? Now, just remember that if you've never been to one of these places that you're thinking of, Google is your best friend. Like I said, I'd never been to Buckingham Palace, and I've never been to Hollywood, so I've never been to any of the places that I've written about. But Google and Google Maps is your best friend if you're trying to figure out the logistics of getting from one place to another. So hopefully you have an idea in your head of where you would like to set your story. And the very next thing you need to think about is your main character. Let's just move that over there. So your main character is super, super important to the story. Your main character is it's going to be someone who is kind of holding the hand of your reader and guiding them through the story. So it needs to be someone that we find compelling or interesting or that we like. Now, you don't have to like your main character. Sometimes you can have unlikable narrators or unreliable narrators who might not be telling the truth. But we need someone who's compelling, someone that really gets our interest. So when you're thinking of a main character, maybe you want to start thinking about aspects of yourself. Maybe you want to use yourself as inspiration. What are some of the things that you like or dislike or that you're scared of that maybe your main character could draw from as well? If you want to use someone else, maybe you want to use the people around you. Maybe you want to use a teacher or a friend or a parent or a family member. You might want to use someone who comes from one of your favorite TV shows or your favorite movie. Just think about a main character that might be inspired by something that you really like and start to think about what they like, what their personality qualities are, and what are they afraid of. That is always something that's really important for a thriller. If someone's afraid of something and the reader knows that they're afraid of something, then that means that you, as the writer, can exploit that, which feels really mean. Sometimes we have to be really mean to our characters, and we have to make them face their fears, but that's what makes a thriller so much fun. So just think about who your main character is, maybe jot down something about them quickly, something, maybe a name or a personality trait. Maybe they really like a particular hobby or a particular sport, or maybe they have a particular talent. Maybe they're afraid of the dark, maybe they're afraid of heights. Just write something very quickly down about that main character. Just have a quick sip of my water. So once you've written something down about your main character, we need more. We need more characters. We can't just have one. I mean, you can have one, but I think a thriller works great when you have plenty of characters. Now, these are the characters who, in my opinion, are arguably the most interesting. Now, of course, our main characters are very interesting in their own right, but we all secretly love a suspect or a villain. They are some of the most iconic characters. You can see some of them here. You can see the Joker, Cruella de Vil. We've got Regina George, who's down there from Mean Girls. I've even included Lara Croft. I know she's not a villain or a suspect, but I'll get onto why I've included her in a second. So let's move me over there. In a thriller, everybody is a suspect. Maybe even your main character. Every single person is a suspect, and the number one rule is that you can't trust anybody. So you need a great supporting cast. So when it comes to the characters who are surrounding your main character, they need to stand out in certain ways. Maybe they need to look suspicious. Maybe they need to have kind of dark motives for hanging around. Maybe they look like they're up to no good. So when it comes to thinking about what characters you can surround your main character with, think about again your favorite characters from TV shows like the ones that I've put here, maybe your favorite movies, your favorite music, or your favorite video games, and get to know those characters a little bit. What do they really like? What would their motive be? If they're a suspect, what would their motive be for doing the crime that's been committed? Or what would their kind of motive be for being a part of this mystery? Maybe they really want something really badly, or maybe they're an enemy of your main character. And if you're going to choose a villain, maybe just you don't want suspects, you just want a one big villain. Think about like big bosses and final bosses, and how you can use those as kind of a big obstacle to stand in your character's way of getting what they really want. So think a little bit about the inspiration you will use for your suspects or your villains. Write down something very interesting about them, what you think about them, what makes them stand out. Maybe it's a particular kind of hairstyle, for example, Cruella de Vil, half white, half black hair. Heath Ledger in the Joker has the green hair and the very distinctive makeup. So think about something very interesting about those characters. Now, the next thing you need for writing a thriller is evidence. And you need lots of it, evidence and clues, because we can't just leave your main character in the dark. Your main character needs to start to be able to piece together aspects of the story. They need to be able to piece together the mystery, solve the mystery, and build up a story and a picture of what's going on and how they're going to get away from it, how they're going to solve it, how they're going to kind of get what they want out of this story. So think of evidence as kind of breadcrumbs. You're going to be leaving little breadcrumbs throughout the story, which aren't just for which isn't just for your main character, but they're also for your reader. Now, your reader is so important in a thriller because you want to kind of treat your reader as a bit of a main character. You want to be able to give them just enough so that they can build a picture of what they think. So you want to be thinking of clues such as maybe it's a bloodied scarf, or it's a lost piece of jewelry, or it's a lost phone, or a secret by an anonymous blogger. You want to be thinking of little bits of evidence and clues that you can kind of throw into the story which casts suspicions to all of the characters around you. Now, the idea of evidence and clues is that it should relate to someone around the character. Maybe it relates to the enemy, it relates to a friend, it relates to someone else that starts to kind of cast suspicions about where this story is going. This is what's going to start to build the picture. So think very carefully about what evidence and clues you could include. If you're kind of setting it in a school, maybe it's a pencil case or a rucksack has been left behind. Maybe it's a book. It can be anything you want it to be, but it has to be able to point to another character to kind of build a motive as to why that character might be the person behind it all. And once you've done that, you thought it was going to be easy. The reader thinks that they've got it sorted. They've started to piece together all the bits of evidence, all the clues. They've started to think, I've got this. And then you're going to throw in some red herrings. Now, red herrings are basically clues and bits of evidence that look like they say one thing, but actually they're another. So maybe a red herring will be something where you think that it's something to do with one character, but it's actually to do with another. So a red herring, we're going to need one of those, or maybe a few if you want to add a few in to your story to think about what's something that you could put into the story that makes it look like one thing, but it actually means another. It needs to kind of give your character a false victory. It needs to make your character feel like they've done it. They've solved the mystery. And just when they think they've solved the mystery, not so fast, the red herring comes in, and suddenly, oh no, the mystery is not solved at all. So it includes some bits of evidence that point in one direction, but later on, when we explain where the evidence has come from, we will realize that that evidence was not what it seemed on the surface. Doo-ba-doo. There we go. And last thing we need are some plot twists. Plot twists are the most important thing to do with thrillers. Thrillers rely on plot twists. Your reader picks up a thriller because they want to be surprised. They want to see if they can beat the author, and it's your job to make sure that they think they can beat the author, but they can't. So a plot twist is something that will leave the reader shocked. It will make them be like, "Oh my gosh, how on earth did I not see that happening?" So when you're looking at your cast of characters that you've created, I want you to think about a motive that each one could have for a particular for your mystery, your crime, whatever's gone on in your story that needs to be solved. So you can think about which character would have a reason to do something. And I want you to find the one character that has the least reason, the one that would be the most surprising. Maybe it's the best friend, maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's something, maybe it's even your main character, something that would really shock your reader. And maybe you can start with a plot twist. If you're stuck on a story, starting with a plot twist and working backwards can really help. That's sometimes how I plot my thrillers. I plot them by thinking, okay, this is what I want to twist at the end. This is how I want to surprise my reader. How can I make that happen? And start to kind of cast suspicions elsewhere. So start thinking about those plot twists. What would make you the most shocked? Think about some of the most famous plot twists that you've seen on TV, in films. What would be a plot twist that's really surprised you, and how can you make a plot twist of your own? Now, I know that we've just pretty much run out of time, so hopefully you've got some of those things written down. Hopefully you've got an idea of how to kind of create some elements of a thriller. And if you do, I would love to read them at some point. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this talk. I really hope that hopefully we've got some budding writers watching, and hopefully you guys have a fantastic World Book Day. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, so hopefully we're back here. I don't know if you can still see my screen, but thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful rest of your World Book Day.